Hello, warriors. Here I am again with Cher. You guys know Cher by now, student here at TFW, and a person who, let me just say, she loves to help. Like, she does it for a career, but on top of that, she does not hesitate if there's somebody here in the dojo who's experiencing something that's kind of holding them back. She definitely takes it upon herself to take the time and sit down with people and discuss those things and try to help them through these situations, which we really appreciate.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
So right now we're going to talk about something called subconscious drivers. So Cher, I'm going to ask you a little bit, so what does that mean, subconscious drivers?
Yeah.
Hopefully not somebody that's out on the road driving without conscious.
Yeah. Well,
It could happen.
there is that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so just maybe a quick little lesson in some things about the brain.
Okay.
I love to study the brain because I think the more we understand the way that our brain works, and I'm a real beginner.
Beginner, that's
with
all right.
this, but I think there's so much more information out there now for people like us to read about the brain, and it's really valuable to do it. But we kind of try to do life through exercising the prefrontal cortex, which is that part of our brain that's analytical. It's where we evaluate and we make decisions and we're disciplined or not disciplined, and all of that is this prefrontal cortex. And so when we think about coming to the gym and maybe we want to set some goals of how many times a week we'll be here, how many pounds we want to lose, or how much weight we want to lift, or something like that, whatever our goals are, we usually try to do it through, we get a plan, we determine, we make some determination, maybe we even have accountability.
Okay.
And all of those things are fantastic. I mean, and we should use our prefrontal cortex. I mean, it's a very powerful part of the brain. But when it comes to sometimes getting derailed from our goals or not following through on the things that we determined that we wanted to do, kind of like we talked about before, about we find ourselves not following through or not getting the success that we really know that we can, I think it's time to take a look at what's going on in another part of our brain. And it's several parts of our brain referred to as the limbic system, Limbic. So Google it if you want more. There's tons of information out there, and it's super good to understand this part of our brain. It's the part of our brain where all of the things are stored, like past experiences, traumas, wounds, all of our memories, our emotions, our perceptions, all of that stuff is stored in this much deeper part of our brain. Many people say that the limbic brain is 200 times more powerful than the prefrontal cortex.
Wow. There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on, and the limbic brain is all of those subconscious drivers.
Okay.
So if the subconscious driver part of our brain is 200 times more powerful than the prefrontal cortex, what's going to win?
Right.
The subconscious drivers. So to just give a little example, I have a client that I've been working with whose father pretty much told her whole life that she would never amount to anything.
Oh, wow.
She grew up with some struggles, and so, I mean, her family always treated her like she would not ever be able to really even be independent or achieve anything. She now owns her own business, and she's phenomenal at what she does, but she constantly fights the feelings of failure and defeat.
And back there in the back of her mind, so to speak, all
she
the time.
hears his voice all the time saying, you will never amount to anything. And so she struggles. In my opinion, as her coach, she could be 10 times or 50 times more successful than she is, because she is phenomenal at what she does. But she does all of these little things that sabotage her success.
Okay.
So her subconscious drivers are dictating the day, and she's making strides. She's made huge, fantastic changes as we've worked together. But those subconscious drivers, they're real, they're powerful, and we have to take a look at them. And they can change,
Sure.
but we have to be intentional about making those changes.
I think that's really a great point, and it's I think it's probably significant in a lot of people's lives, and it you know, like you and I were talking earlier, it's not even necessarily something that happened last week or last year. It could have happened half a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that those things still, that self-doubt and those negative voices and so forth still come to the forefront of our beings when we are trying to accomplish things, trying to reach goals, trying to grow, things like that. So yeah, they may well have been there for a very long time, but they still,
Yeah.
like you said, are real. They're still playing a part in how we move forward in our lives.
Yeah. Well, the brain always works to protect us, to keep us alive.
Sure.
And our subconscious brain doesn't always recognize what is a real threat and what is a perceived threat. So when something happens that triggers those memories or those perceptions, it might be a smell, it might be something that we see, it might be the tone of a voice. Where that person who is speaking to us, for example, the tone of a voice, they may be joking or they may be distracted, you know,
Sure.
and consciously we even know that, but all of a sudden something happens. It's like, and people will often say this, I don't know, it's like a switch got flicked in me, right? And so we get triggered by those things, and then our brain, our subconscious brain steps to the forefront to protect us and keep us safe, even when it's not a situation of danger.
Sure.
And so, again, becoming aware of, and this is something that it's process, you know, when we start to identify what our subconscious drivers are, what are the things that get in the way, especially habitually, and derail us or keep us from getting the kind of success we want. Becoming aware of them is really important, because without that, it's very hard to ever make significant changes that can help us get the success that we're really after.
Absolutely. I think it bears saying that in this day and age where so much of our communication is done electronically, there's definitely room for those triggers happening in terms of emails or social media, things like that, where you know, there's a lot of room for misunderstanding and for those triggers to come about because you don't have any sort of additional cues. You don't have any, and you don't see the person talking to you. You don't hear them talking to you. And so what you read may be completely misinterpreted from what the person intended it to be.
Yeah. And I love that word, misinterpretation, because that's usually what is happening.
Sure.
It's our subconscious mind is misinterpreting what is really happening in the moment, but then we are driven or controlled by that, and we do things that aren't necessarily helpful.
Absolutely. So that's a good definition of our subconscious drivers. So in our next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how do we identify what those things are, because without identifying those things, how can we ever find a way to get those tools out that we need to fix those things?
Right.
So thank you very much, Cher.
You bet.